right? And I'm not playing no games. Yeah.
Well, I am Pops, and yes, we're going to talk about this Guardians movie. Yeah, I don't know what to say because I have not watched everybody else's stuff. I did go on a comedy. I get on Matt's stream briefly to sort of like, I don't know, just talk to him a little bit about chit chat about. I'd message him briefly. So I did that, and let's we're gonna do that. But no, let's dive into this a little bit about my thoughts, what I like, what I didn't like, and let me just do that. Let me first again, spoilers, more spoilers. I have no time, patience for not doing all this spoiler free whatever. So if you don't want spoilers, this isn't going to be the time for you. I will lean into the spoilers a little bit as we go, so bear with me. And as you guys come rolling in the chat, I'll try to say hey to you here in just 1 second. And let me get through a couple thoughts real quick. One, stuff that I like and don't like. Let me hit on a few of these high level things first before I get deep into the spoilers. One, I think the backbone of the story that's there is fine. Like this is a story about Rocket, and that story is fine. The negative is this movie is way too long. It's like 30 minutes too long, probably 20 to 30 minutes too long. It's like 2.5 hours long. It's way too long. So positive and negative in that regard. The Rocket story itself. Rocket is it's in the trailers a little bit, but he's injured very early in the film, and the premise is they've got this this idea, this hypothesis of what to do to save him, and they have to go. That one thing leads to another thing, put you in conflict with the villain, that kind of thing. And then Rocket has in his like comatose state flashbacks to his origin story, how he become Rocket, which was basically a lot of animal cruelty and experimentation. All of that I thought worked really, really well, especially while we knew a lot of this elements of Rocket had been experimented on and all of that, and we knew he didn't want to be called a raccoon, we didn't really know a lot of the intricacies. And I think this did a really good job of at least giving us that part of it. Okay. What else worked well? I think all the performances are fine. Even Adam Warlock, I was very, very skeptical about Adam Warlock. Performance is not the issue. I also thought the look of the film was fine. There are a couple of volume moments, one near the end where there's like a hugging moment, and you're like, "Ooh, this is in the volume." But other than that, the look of it and all of that was pretty good. And it shows that James Gunn getting away is a bad thing for Disney. Like, this is clearly if it's not the best thing. I don't know if I like it more or less than the holiday special, but it's among the best things they've done in the last couple of years. A phase 4, now phase 5. And you're letting this guy get away. It shows you don't really know what you're doing, because this is as bad as this is. It's not great. This isn't like, Winter Soldier or anything like that. So, hey, Shieldwall, you saw the movie last Friday. Hail to you, my brother. Hope you're doing all right. Thank you for that. Give me a minute. I'm going to run through some stuff, and then I can open the door, let you guys come in here. Nas, what kind of poll? What kind of poll do you want, man? I don't know what kind of poll to put up. Bear with me, man. This is very impromptu because I didn't really feel the need to get too much into this and all that editing, all that. People have already been doing reviews. I see stuff coming. I don't want to get into it because I didn't want anybody else's opinion to take my take on it. So that's what I'm going to share with my thoughts. So that's the general positives. Let me get into the issue. The issues is with each piece, like when you pull it all apart. Oh, the other positive, the biggest positive of all is the villain is good. The High Evolutionary had exceeded my expectations a millionfold. Like, this whole concept of just being evil, and the villain basically, he does experimentation. He's trying to create perfect organisms. And even when it goes awry, which it does in the film, they show a situation, which we'll get to me mocking that. When it goes awry, he's like in total denial, and he basically is playing God, and he basically has this great line about playing God, which I thought was great. God doesn't exist. I stepped in, and he refuses to own any respect of life. It's okay to just kill people if I need to get to this ideal that I have of this perfect place I can create. Okay, so that's the general crux of what works. What doesn't work is one, the length, and part of the length is there's massive sequences that don't do us any good, right? Um, it let's figure out where we pick up. We pick up where Star Lord Peter Quill is just drunk, and he's, I guess, mourning Gamora. I don't know how long it's been since we've left him at the holiday special or the events of other stuff, but he's there. They live on nowhere now, and then they're suddenly attacked by Adam Warlock. Okay, and there's a little bit of a throwdown. Nebula grabs some jetpack we've never seen before, and she kind of like saves the day a little bit, and then Adam Warlock kind of like flies away. There's no real reason for Adam Warlock to be in this movie. This isn't Adam Warlock from the comic books. This is just a dude covered in gold paint. At times, at least, he doesn't look bad. He definitely doesn't look as bad as that very first look that we had. And I'm not going to dog on, is it Will Poultier? I think is how you say his name. He's fine. The problem is the character just is this weird, juvenile, beta people thing. It's just very strange. It's very strange. I don't quite get it. I had a problem with its length. You know, clip if you need to. You can do what you got to do. I'm here for it, Nas. But yeah, if you don't want spoilers, so the Adam Warlock stuff doesn't make any sense. He comes in and he's sort of like the high evolutionary has this power that we don't really explain. He has like, able to push people and do these different things. He sort of has this sovereign under his thumb. And they're using Adam. He came out of his cocoon too soon, allegedly, and that's why he's so juvenile. He's kind of a mama's boy and very naive and all of that. And then that's kind of how that plays out. And with Quill, it's just this emotional reaction about, possibly losing Rocket, which is fine. There's a kill switch or something in him. You think that Drax could die at one point. Everything is always played to serious stakes, but no. Serious stakes, but no. So they got to go on this adventure to get this code thing. And the way they're going to figure out where to go or how to go or whatever is Nebula decides that they can call up Gamora because Gamora's not been around. She's with Ravengers. And you're like, wait a minute. They never deal with this. They never deal with why Nebula kept it to herself that she knew. Like, no one gets into this. It's all about just Gamora. Gamora is a complete douchebag in this movie. Makes no sense whatsoever, by the way, because this is the Gamora from the first Guardians movie. Now, it makes sense that she doesn't have a love interest, a love of Peter Quill, but she's the Gamora that like went against Thanos to save beings in the galaxy. Like, oh, we have to deal with this stone and all this other stuff, right? She has she shows like no real interest in much of anything. She is very off-putting. And it's done very, very badly. They're going to go to this place where it's not a space station. It's like a living organism thing. And they put on these multicolored space suits, like freaking Teletubbies floating and talking. It's terrible because you have a moment and then they have to derail. Let me show you a clip. I downloaded a clip because this clip perfectly illustrates one of the worst problems with this movie because let's see, I Miss You clip. I think it's called I Miss You. Yeah, this is it. Okay. So let me put it over here. This is the clip. They're on this planet and they're in different suits. And what they do is they're going to have a little serious moment where she's being talked to.
So much. And maybe.
So he's doing this whole, I miss you, I love you, if you could just give me a chance. She calls him Quinn instead of Quill. You can open yourself up to it. This is what's happening, right? There's a possibility. She's like, no.
Quill.
See how they're in different Teletubby suits on this like organism thing? And then it's very emotional. And then we stop because now we have to have gags. So now the gag is everyone's listening. which we've done in other movies, right? Drax was just standing there. Remember that gag? Like, I'm so stealthy, no one can see, right? That gag. That's what this is kind of going for. But then what they do is they end up in this whole big debate about pushing the button. See how they're all in different colored Teletubby costumes? And it's like Nebula was fine, but then it's suddenly like push the different colors.
Blue for the blue suit.
Oh no.
Blue is the open line for everyone.
Right. And then it's like orange is for blue, and then it's for yellow, black is for orange, yellow is green for red, yellow. So it just turns into the sequence of the joke is longer. So see how it's only a few seconds of them trying to be serious, and then the joke part takes up like triple the amount of time or more. Yeah, I just I don't understand. Like I don't know. Yeah, Teletubbies are haunting. Listen, there should be a horror spoof of Teletubbies if there's not already. I absolutely agree with that. This entire sequence is about getting this orb thing, right? They show up, and when they get into this thing, there's Nathan Fillion, who's in some sort of weird, crazy Michelin Man meets the Thing suit, who basically just cracks a joke the entire time that his sidekick is dumb, or the second in command guy is dumb. That's it. This is a joke that goes through the whole movie, because anytime Drax speaks up, they're like, "Oh, you got a dumb guy too. I can relate because I have a dumb guy." That's the gag. Then they proceed to figure out how to, get this orb and have these back and forth conversations and things like that. And I really don't quite understand what we're going for here. So this was another clip. So on this clip, make sure I get it here. Okay, so this is James Gunn's wife. And I remember watching this and going, is that the girl from Peacemaker? Yeah. So he has his wife. Hey, Zax. And I'm like, so it's just played for gags. Everything is played for gags. Like,
And that is all.
So it's about Gamora being a jerk, and he's like kind of flirting, but not flirting. And it's like they don't quite know what to do with it all. Right. And then Nebula's just kind of, now I want to point out too, this is another problem with the Nebula. Look how frumpy they made her. Oh my gosh. Hey, Zach, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Chris, how you doing, buddy? Zach, you can make a poll. I think you're a mod. You can make a poll. No, I didn't make polls. Yeah, that is his wife. Yeah. Now she does disappear, but she has like this silly role. It's just this entire sequence doesn't matter, because when they get the orb, it doesn't give them the thing they need. The thing they need was taken from this and moved to some other guy. So this entire sequence should have been, they're going for Quill versus Gamora is not going to work out. They repeatedly told us how dumb Drax is. Yeah, Rocket's out of commission. Groot's irrelevant. I just, yeah, it just, there's so much time wasted in this sequence. I really, really don't understand it. The Gamora part really, really misses for me, because they have an opportunity. Oh, we'll get there. Let me get there. So, all right. So as we move through this process, and you're having these flashbacks, because the flashbacks are continuing to go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chris is bringing up a good point too with that image. I should have left it up. I should have left it up. That one of the things I couldn't stand, Chris, was that there are shots of Gamora's Saldana's character, and the makeup looks terrible. So let me put this up here, because you're right. Because is it in this shot? So some of the prosthetics looks fine, and then sometimes it doesn't. That's not one of the terrible ones. It's not good, but that's not the terrible one. There's some of them with like really, really dark and stuff. It's very strange. Anyway, but there are shots of her where it looks really, really dark, like it's just really badly done. But this whole sequence doesn't matter for me. We don't really get anywhere. Looks like Kylie Minogue for me. I don't know what the ball mic look like. I don't know who that is. Who is that? That's not her name, right? Because James Gunn's wife is named Danielle something, right? Isn't it? Jennifer Holland. Isn't it Jennifer Holland? I think it's supposed to be her. Anyway, I don't know. It's not even worth getting too caught up with all of this nonsense. So the story moves along, and then we have the high evolutionary explaining all these processes. He's experimenting, making these perfect organisms, and he uses Earth because at some point or another he thought this was all not so bad. If we could just get rid of those pesky humans' free will, that they're mean and cruel and whatever, make perfect organisms, make this Earth. And he experiments on animals, and he basically does create, as I joked about, and yes, they made fun of me, it's Zootopia. They literally go to a Zootopia, and it's people running around with animal masks and gloves on, living in humans, like a scene out of freaking Edward Scissorhands' Neighborhood. And the characters will talk, but then Quill doesn't understand them. They're trying to communicate. And that's where you get the whole, he drives the car, but doesn't know how to drive a car. And we ultimately get the F-bomb too, right? Because Nebula doesn't know how to get in the car, so she's fiddling with the lock instead of pushing the button in to open the car. And he's like, just effing open or effing close the door. That's the big F-bomb. And I'm like, and by the way, the high evolutionary gets rid of said planet, and there's no one acknowledges it. No one talks about anything. Like, this whole planet is exploding around them at one point, and the gag is that Drax stole a motorcycle. He was supposed to stay with the ship so he could fly the ship to them. That would have been useful, but instead he took a motorcycle ride, and now it leaves Gamora alone on the ship. So, I mean, people liked it, and it's fine that stuff's happening. But if we take a pause to really analyze any of it, very little of it actually like worked. Like it didn't get us to where we need to go. So let me try to prompt a few of my thoughts. This is that opening scene I said, like, he's completely drunk and Rocket and all that kind of stuff's happening. This is one of those stage moments where they're all walking. Oh, this is fine. This is the frustrated Quill, got to save and whatever. This is the scene I just talked about. Let's see. Okay, there's a high evolution. This dude was great. So screw Kang. This guy was great. High evolution. Exceeded my expectations and then some, by the way. This is the experimentation on Rocket. Okay, by the way, there was a quick shot of Groot. Oh, this was her constant cyborg changing when she attacks Warlock. Again, you guys don't want spoilers, it's too late, but just as another reminder with this, because this is a bigger one. So Groot, so they have this fight, and Warlock's attacking them all. He's super powered, but we don't understand what the rules are, because that knife thing actually injures him enough that he needs to retreat. But he was like blasted through walls, and he's throwing down all this fighting, right? And he literally shoots Groot where the head comes off and starts crawling around like the creature from Thing. But remember in episode volume 1, how long it took him to regenerate through all of volume 2. Well, here he's just regenerated. Okay. And then there's a credit scene, and he's massive. So we have no idea what the rules are anymore. We break the rules if we need to. I mean, it's a nitpicky thing, sure, I suppose. This is the Teletubby costumes in space going to this is this flesh planet thing. This sort of like a video game level that we have to go to. They bounce. I hated it in the trailer, and I hate it now. This is the other Earth planet with the Zootopian characters. This is the flashback stuff, which was great, by the way. This is them shoot. So this is the very end when Quill has a nice scene, and you can see how massive Groot is in that shot. Oh, this is the dancing at the end. There's the hugging in the flashback. This is this little creature that Adam Warlock has, this little puppy-looking creature thing. Kind of reminded me of the stupidity that we had in Shang-Chi with like the footstool. We created something that was just for fluff. Mantis, Drax. So Drax would just do silly, stupid stuff like he kind of always does, but he has no arc whatsoever. And then at the end, when they're trying to rescue a bunch of kids, they do this, oh, he knows how to talk to them. He's kind of like a dad moment. Just because. Just doesn't matter. Doesn't change anybody's it doesn't change anybody's outcome. And everybody just wants to go their own ways and stuff. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, we can touch on it. So this is the fake out of the scene right there where Nebula was carrying him, because that's actually because he was drunk. Let me see what's happening here.
All fly away together.
Oh yeah, she does all sorts of crazy mind things in this or whatever, and yeah. See how dark her face is at times? Like, it's not consistent.
It sounds more like her.
Her? That's ridiculous.
Do not bring me into this.
They really miss an opportunity there, because there is sort of moments where it seems like Nebula does kind of have feelings for him, and he's kind of at least open to the idea, and Gamora's pushing him away. Instead of them just sitting around and having this cutaway on the ship where Gamora's in the bathroom, they could have had Gamora like rummaging through everybody's stuff and seeing the iPod, the little music thing, and seeing like, our playlist, Gamora's special song, things like that, pictures maybe, or something that could have helped her connect to them as a family, and not just she treats Quill like basically he's just trying to get in her pants. It doesn't evolve at all. It doesn't make any sense. And Nebula could have easily have said, I knew where she was, but I spared you from that because I didn't want to see you go through any more pain and suffering in the situation. And it wouldn't necessarily mean they had to be a couple, but it would have at least made more sense with the character and the character's arc that she's evolved into a completely different person who really cares about these people as family. And he maybe even starting to develop feelings for Quill. Would have made sense. Missed opportunities. Nebula's not any different at all than she was at the beginning of the movie. Gamora's no different. She just leaves. Chris Pratt is the only one who sells everything in this movie. So I thought that really worked in the grand scheme of things. But even then, all right, I'll let you guys come in before I get to like my real stupid, I can't believe they did this kind of thing. So yeah, here we go. Your polio. Hey, saw you were on. Glad to finally catch you live. Hey, man, thanks. I'm not normally in town on Mondays. I'm not normally able to do this kind of stuff. But yeah, Flaccid. Hey, man, awesome. Listen, I know it's okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, spoilers are abound. If you don't want spoilers, and I may not be for you, Pops, can you do a spoiler review without giving it away in the story or plot? Maybe review. Thanks, Sax. No, I just, yeah, thank you, everybody, for all the support. I appreciate it very much. Put the link there if you guys want to hop in. It's fine with me. I'm good. There are so many elements that I just kind of felt like I just want to just like spew it all out, because it's just like nothing is that bad and nothing is that great. It's just all okay. Now that's why to get her pants. Did she change in there? The parking? I don't know, man. I don't know. But no, it's great. Bobby, hey man, hope you're doing all right. Bobby, you haven't seen this, so I'm trying to be careful with spoilers and stuff, Bobby, if you don't want spoilers, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'm not holding back. This is my therapeutic vent. Let's get it all out in one session kind of thing. Nebula figures out Quill's not such a douche. Yeah, I thought this was really kind of a softball to allow for some character arcs. Didn't really kind of go that way. And I think that there's just almost too much stuff in it. So, Godporial, don't encourage Pops. He hasn't seen the Kaminsky. Well, listen, you'll see. We'll see. Pops, you won't go so far as to agree with a few people on the internet that Gunn just saved the MCU. I don't know, but yeah. So if you guys don't know, I've not watched anybody's reviews. I've seen a few things that have kind of thrown up on my thing, because obviously the thumbnails are there. I only listened to Matt, who liked the movie. He gave it a 6.5, and I didn't get into spoilers at all with him or them that were in that member chat. And I do not think that this. Actually, let me say this. This movie has nothing to do with the MCU. It doesn't tie to anything that's been going on. If anything, it kind of ties to Guardians 2 and the events of Endgame. But all of the TV shows and all this other stuff, I don't know if there have been any Guardians references along the way. You guys could tell me if I missed something. And it doesn't tie into anything going forward. It leaves it with like a new Guardians team. Basically, that's how we leave things. So it has nothing to do with anything else. That is a positive because there's no baggage with it. They didn't have to explain away the events of Loki or what happened in Doctor Strange or, oh, by the way, why did we not notice this happened in Moon Knight? Or no, very self-contained. It actually works pretty well, and it works well for Guardians. Like the three movies could be its own thing. This is by far the weakest of the three, in my opinion. I didn't get to the music. The music is a mess. Okay, he does good choices of songs, but there's a couple of times where they're just overused or they're inserted in the wrong pace. And I think the first act or so, the editing is really kind of a mess. But it's Marvel. I'm sure it's predictable. Well, the irony was, Bobby, they have opportunities and they set you up for feelings as though a character may die or this is going to happen. And it's always about subverting your expectations and changing it. And the problem I have is a lot of times it's not explained. And there's definitely no explanation of how a person could survive a certain type of injury. We do certain things to certain characters. We have no idea how they survive those things or why there's not any residual damage or how a character. Again, Bobby, I'm sorry if you're here. If you don't want spoilers, Bobby, I don't want to ruin things too much more, but I have definitely done some damage on the spoiler part. So Shieldwall, come in here, man. Let's talk about it. Felt like watching three kinds of movies all at the same time. Yeah, it really doesn't feel like a nice cohesive story. It's kind of like he has too many characters and he doesn't know exactly how to give them a story arc, and he's probably not wrapped it all up. Like he hasn't really. So are you kidding? I love they're Portland. Listen, you understand those three spaghetti westerns. I love them so much. And Good, Bad, and the Ugly is probably, I have this like triumvirate of is Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Tombstone, and Unforgiven, my three favorite westerns, the three best westerns. And it's all different scales of perspective on how to evaluate them on where they fit on that. Like, is one more rewatchable versus this? And yeah, so I love those films very much so. So I'm jumping into your guys' conversation because you're in my chat. I don't know what to say. So haven't seen it, but you'll give it a 7. Well, you're more generous than me, man. Not going 7. Classic Zax. Yep. It wasn't a review. Chris Pratt, James Gunn reading tweets and said he saved the MCU. The other claimed he saved the MCU and now saved the DCU. Okay, well, I have very limited belief that anything is saved. I think everything is, a lot of the fatigue is real. I am not getting normies having any interest in this. A lot of people are very much like, it's the last hurrah and I'll get to it when I get to it. And I have one person who told me right away, the main reason they hesitated to even go this weekend was because of the length. Freaking, 2.5 hours of your life. Basically, it's like 3 hours of your life to go see a Marvel movie. It is a big commitment for just the Guardians, right? So, Klaus is the Hunchback. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I looked that up. You brought that up once before, and I looked it up, made sure I understood what you're talking about. So, Dean Krantz, how you doing, brother? Listening to another podcast today, and they said there was a big difference on the installment. Gunn wrote this. Others with Dan Abnett and Gunn as writer. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Shieldwall is in the house. How you doing, brother?
Hi, how's it going? Can you? Sorry, I don't have a avatar up. This is the first time I've used this particular program.
No, it's fine. Listen, take a minute and browse that little settings option and see. I've been playing around with Restream because it definitely has a better dark mode for me. So I like that a lot better than I liked with StreamYard. And I got to be honest, I'm probably at the point now where I'm ready to like flip my StreamYard to the free version and just kind of keep balancing between the two of them. So
Okay.
But
Do I sound
you
okay?
sound good. Yeah, you sound good. And
All right.
yeah, so you already saw the film. And again, reminder for folks, Dean, you just came in here too. Chat spoilers. We're not holding back. This is my therapeutic vent session. I don't know what people are saying. So have you listened to a lot of people's reviews and stuff?
I have. I've seen a few that are out there, and listened to a couple of people stream about it. Mainly non-spoiler reviews.
Okay.
So yeah, I have some thoughts about it. Most of what you were talking about is pretty spot on, but there's a wide spectrum. There's a lot of people that absolutely love the movie. They think it's the best thing ever. The music is great and everything. And there's other people that have the exact opposite opinion and think it's a horrible movie.
Well, I don't think I'm saying it's horrible. Did I come
No, no,
across?
no.
Okay,
I
I
don't.
think
I don't.
it's okay. Okay.
But some of the people that are saying it's bad are the same people that liked multiverse, the multiverse movie, and a couple of other ones that weren't any good. So,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
but yeah. But what you were saying, when I was watching the movie, to me it felt like I was watching 3 movies at one time.
Mm.
Like I was watching a movie about Rocket and his
Yep.
backstory. Then I was watching a heist movie. And then I was
Yep.
watching somebody trying to figure out the relationship movie with Gamora.
And that seemed the one piece that was most shoehorned in. Like it didn't ever know what to do with itself, right?
Hmm. Exactly.
The
And
heist part was fine. It's just a typical video game syndrome, right? Because it's not the heist that makes sense. It's a heist of, oh, we get there and the safe is empty. Oh, go do this instead. So it's like, what do we get out of? How long is that sequence with the flesh planet? Like 30 minutes at least?
it's a while. And the thing is, and I watched I didn't watch all of EFAP because it was like 9 hours long, but I watched
Wow,
a
they already
few.
did an EFAP. Wow.
Yeah, they did an EFAP on it. I
I didn't know
watched
they would
a f-
already have done one already. That's crazy. Wow. Okay, good on them.
Well, it was a live stream, so they just
Okay.
had a bunch of people on it. But
Yeah.
so they have to go through those shields, right, to get to the
Yep.
living whatever that thing is, and
Yep.
then the Ravagers are already on the other side of those shields, so
Mhm.
it didn't make any sense.
And
Like how?
they just do this shield 1, do
Right.
this shield 2. It wasn't even like something that was really tricky to figure out. It was like they went into the challenge already knowing how to get through the challenge.
Well,
And I don't know that I understood why we needed to have Ravengers involved. And that's where we allegedly put Gamora for a while.
right, exactly, and she just now it's a surprise that she's there. But the thing is, the thing that makes Star Lord and Peter Quill particular special is that he can come up with all these weird plans that just work out. Like
Mhm.
in uh not Endgame, the other
Infinity War when they
Infinity
catch
War.
Thanos.
Right.
Yeah.
Now they have him basically screw it up, but his plan to catch him works perfectly. And he's like,
Mhm.
"Hi, I told you it'd work." Well, that's his special thing. He's a thief, he's a trickster. He has a lot of these elaborate plans that wind up working out. But the thing is that they didn't really do that with him in this one.
No.
Gamora goes into that place and just starts shooting the place up. And I thought that we were going to see the old Peter Quill when he was going to talk Yura into like giving him the information. He's going to charm her and all
Mhm.
this, and I thought that would have been really cool. But it didn't go there, and that's the problem that I've had with every show that's been in the last like couple of years, especially with Taika Waititi and whatever, is they have a serious moment, you're getting serious payoff for it, and then they put
Yep.
in some joke somewhere. It's like we got to interrupt it, and I really don't like that.
They just pulled that clip up where they're talking about, I missed you a lot, blah blah blah. And
Mhm.
she calls him Quinn, and then we go on a 40-second. We quadruple the amount of time spent on the joke about what buttons to push: yellow,
Right.
blue, green. It's like, and to go back to the, when Quill it does have a plan. It was he puts his guns when they attack the High Evolutionary. There's a little bit of planning there, and
And
we do get a really cool fight scene at the end, like this long hallway sequence where they're all in action fighting off of one another. I thought all of that was fine, but it was almost like too little, too late for me at that point. It's well over 2 hours of my life in at this point. So,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, and the whole it's an alien planet that looks like it's from the 70s. Uh,
Mm.
like You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's my grandmother's house or whatever.
It was
And
true. I mentioned Edwards. I
yeah,
likened it to Edward Scissorhands. I
yeah.
think it felt like I was looking at the Chris. I think four. Okay, I'm going to say more like a 5.5. You know, first off, I'm a very hard critic, Chris. You know, so for me, it's like a 2.5 star, like 2.5 star out of 5. Like it's a guess of 5. I don't know that I can go 6. I don't. I think everything has been around that 2.5 star, 2 to 2.5. I don't.
Mhm.
I don't think Black Widow probably is among the worst. I hated it. I thought it was terrible. Makes no sense whatsoever.
They did her dirty.
It
She should
was
have had her own
terrible.
movie years before that.
Yeah.
And it should have been like in the scene from Winter Soldier, I believe it was, where she's interrogating, air quotes,
Hmm.
the general,
Hmm. Yep.
where he thinks he's interrogating her, and then she
Yep.
beats the crap out of all those guys and bails out.
Yep.
I believe that's the movie it was in.
Should have
I'm
been
old,
just. Should have
so my
just been. Well, that scene I think is the beginning of Avengers, actually.
okay,
So
yeah, right. It's so
and
it,
then
but she should
and
have had more moments like that where she's that
correct.
competent.
Yeah.
Not I'm gonna smash my nose into a table
Yeah.
so I
It
don't
was
smell pheromones. I was like, what?
just so
That
dumb.
whole movie was just, yeah, it was a mess. Um, I see Dean Krantz here in the is talking about Abnett. Um,
Oh,
and
right. Let me go back up
yeah,
to that.
so
Yep.
I think he co-wrote the first two uh Guardians. He like
Yep.
had his hand in that, and his 40K novels are really good.
Hmm.
But he didn't do anything with this third one. This was all Gunn.
Hmm.
Maybe some ghostwriters or something, people helping him out. But
Did you feel like this is I felt like I'm going to get a gun cut. Like there's like a even longer version of this movie and they agreed to trim it to this, but the studio made him keep like the Adam Warlock or they made him keep
mm,
pieces of it that don't it's why
I
it's kind of a mess. Like there's probably like a 3-hour version of this that might actually make a little bit more sense and they flesh out some details, but it's a freaking 3-hour movie. And then we end up with like this hybrid that's kind of a bit of a mess.
I think that's 100% what happened,
Hmm.
and the
Okay.
reason is that the theaters would go crazy on him if they gave him a 3.5 hour movie because it's eating up they don't have enough turnover in the
Yeah, no
theaters
turns.
and
Yep.
right, exactly, and they're not making the popcorn sales and whatever, and so it's not good business sense for them to do that. Plus, it's a 3-hour movie that most people don't want to sit through. What they should do later is compile all that, release the gun cut, if you want to call it that, and I would be willing to bet it probably makes a lot more sense,
Yep.
and might
I could
be
see
even
that.
a better movie. Yeah, and so
It
they had
felt
to
like
make
it felt like a similar problem to Justice League in the sense of when you saw the Snyder cut, and I know it was radically changed, but you felt like why the Snyder cut felt like it was better was because it fleshed out a lot
mhm.
of things and pieces that were rushed. And I think this it's like I don't know, there's just so many pieces that are just sort of like not really I think maybe okay, I'm sorry. This is again very therapeutic stream, so bear with my thought processes. Um, people that really like it, let's say those people that were giving it an 8, which is really high for any. I mean, there's few that would be an 8 for me. But do you feel like maybe they're relying on head canon, things that you kind of sorted out in your head, but that actually weren't on screen? That's kind of maybe what I think. There's pieces where you can pick up a little bit where you think they're going or how they got there, but it didn't actually happen.
Well, one of the
Makes sense.
bigger problems is that you won't get some of this movie if you didn't watch the Christmas special. Um, I
That's true.
think
There's two
there,
references well, I think that, but I don't think those are complicated references. You just might go, what?
but
Right? Yeah.
you get more of it fills in some more gaps for what the characters have been doing and how their
True.
relationship. Like you would be because like why in the very beginning, right? Rocket is listening to Quill's music and all of a sudden
Right.
he likes it and everybody likes his music and they've gone and they got a mp3 player from the 2000s to
Yeah.
as a gift for him or whatever, and whereas before the only people that really seemed to care about his music was Quill. Everyone else is like, man, this isn't really that great. And so over the course of the three movies and the special, I felt like it's showing that they've grown into a group. And I think Gunn is really good at that, doing the ragtag, disparate people becoming a group like he did in Peacemaker,
Hmm.
where what I enjoyed the most about that show is that you had all these people, had a lesbian character that
Hmm.
if it would have been done as normal these days, she would have just been vitriolic the whole time, and everyone else would have been doofuses and clowns, and she'd be the bestest ever. But instead, she really needed everyone else's help to get the job done. And Peacemaker himself was kind of a buffoon, and Gunn's girlfriend, he was always like hitting her on her at the bar. I can't remember the character's name. And she was like, this guy's like a misogynist douchebag.
Yep.
But then she sees that he actually has some good qualities, and some of the stuff he's saying isn't really out there that far, right? So by the time the end of the show comes, they're a team and they're working together, and they've got each other's backs, and they're not at each other's throat, or they understand each other better. And even though they have differences of how their lifestyles and opinions are and backgrounds, they work as a team and they're super effective. And it's funny as well.
And there's
Me.
pieces of Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad and this that you see. This is when he's at his best. Is when he's got like odd characters, plenty of time to get through jokes, and some things are going to land and don't work. He can play his music sequences and things like that. I think the longer form that might work better. That's why I think I have more faith in like Creature Commandos working than I do his Superman project, because I don't see how that works in a Superman universe where it's not a bunch of weird, strange characters that are like that. And here, I think it was that I feel like he needed more time, or didn't know exactly like what to do with Drax. What story arc does Drax have? I mean, they kind of shoehorn in he can talk to the kids and he kind of has a dad moment, but other than that, it's like he's treated as, well, he's the dumb guy.
I think where they
Okay.
were going with him, especially with that joke with the colored panel,
Yep.
was he's like, well, it's intuitive that's the way it would work. And I think what that's trying to get at, especially you link that with Tim being able to talk to the children, is that he's almost an analogous for autistic people or something. Like
Mm.
he he operates on a different mental level, to where he sounds like an idiot and he can't do metaphor, but he has the ability to see things clearer than maybe anybody else on the team, because he's in that mode. It's just
Hmm.
he never has the opportunity to utilize it in a positive form, except in those instances. Because you think about it, if he says, well, it's intuitive, then that made me think, okay, this is an alien looking at it, and Quill's a human, so that's why he's not getting it, and everyone else understands it, is because they're not human and they come in that universe. At least that's the way I kind of took it.
Well, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just don't think
Right.
that's any different than he was when I first started the movie. I think that
Mhm.
most of the characters really aren't significantly different. Like Gamora goes back to Stallone. I'm like, okay, she seems pretty happy about it, I guess, but okay. Mantis has got to go find herself, which I thought was actually kind of a strange thing, in the sense that we made all this effort to make them family and give Quill some sort of connections. And then she's just like, well, I'm going to go out in space with these alien things I can talk to now, and we're just going to go on a little adventure together. And I'm like,
You know why I think they
okay.
did that?
They
It's because
didn't want to go on Earth. Yeah.
well, no, they knew that all of them were going to not be coming back.
Yeah.
So most likely they were either aged out, or they had other projects they were going to go do, or they didn't have the contracts yet. So
Yeah.
if they make that happen, and then some of them don't come back for the next movie, because at the end, if you sat through the entire thing, all the second credits and whatever, it said Star-Lord will return.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's a bold statement. Because unless they're going to recast him, or something.
Well, I've heard Gary say this, and I couldn't agree more. Secret Wars is they're out to reset everything. I hesitate to plant my flag there, because I doubt these people know much about Secret Wars, or they know only of pieces of what they want Secret Wars to look like. So I could see them writing fat checks and doing what they got to do to get certain people back. But I couldn't agree more that a large part of what happens in that long-winded ending is them just kind of like sorting people out of who's coming back and not coming back, and where's everybody going, and that kind of thing. Did you agree with my assessment about Nebula looking kind of frumpy for some reason?
She did. I don't know why that is. Somebody in chat said something like she might be pregnant or something?
Oh, in real life?
Yeah, like in real
Oh, okay.
life.
Well, I
So
didn't know that. So
maybe
that
she
could
was
have been part of it, but you would have
pre
had a lot
part of
more
that, or
shots. Yeah.
something. But and Actually, I liked her character a lot in this movie compared to some of the other ones because I felt like she had the most character development as far as um, she was starting to understand like how like look like how Quill was feeling. Um, I don't know. It just I felt like that her character had a little bit more character development or actually went somewhere with her. She wasn't just I'm a kill machine and whatever.
No, she had feelings, and they just
Right.
they drove really close to making that actually matter.
Hmm.
Like, let's go to a home run and make it actually matter more. But I think it's what you were saying a minute ago. Like, they don't have her locked in for more movies. So, PKL, thank you, brother, for hanging out with us, man. You liked the first 2/3. You didn't care for the big battle at the end. I actually don't mind the big battles at the end. I really didn't like. I didn't like the first act of the movie. I thought the first act just really drug on, and the whole flesh planet thing to me was a complete waste of my life. I don't know why we did all that, but yeah.
Yeah, the way that they like Quill had a certain way he wanted to do things, and then Gamora comes in and just does whatever she wants. And then you've got Nathan Fillion, and they're doing
Those
him dirty in
costumes.
that
Oh
weird
gosh.
whatever that suit is. And then
Michelin Man meets the Thing.
mhm,
With that,
it-
and then he doesn't do anything other than just make a I have a dumb friend joke.
right.
I got it. Don't you get it? I see. Oh, your friend's dumb. See, we can relate. 'Cause my friend's dumb too.
I
That
thought
joke
he
just kept going and going and
I
going.
thought they were going to really utilize him, and he was going to be like some kind of cool character, and you know what I
I
mean,
thought
like
maybe he'd get sucked up into being a part of the Guardians. I was like, wait a
or
minute. So
something,
he,
right?
he wears a stupid costume. It's like I could see that being the perfect gun joke. It's like, well, if we can just get you out of that stupid costume,
So
you could be useless to it. You could be helpful to us. You know
so
what I
every
mean?
ever since Thor in was it Ragnarok or the other one where he winds up riding around. Oh no, that was Endgame. Where he's riding around with the Guardians, right? And he
Mhm.
goes and he goes to Niflheim or whatever and gets his hammer made, and then they show up at the Battle of Wakanda or whatever. Anyway, ever since that happened and he was there, I've just kind of wanted, even if it was just for like a little bit or something, and as Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's like rolling with them, and not that crap they had in Love and Thunder in the
Oh,
very
it's
beginning.
terrible.
I'm talking like an actual thing where he's like hanging out with them and stuff.
Yeah.
And ever since then, in almost every TV show, She-Hulk, you name it, I'm just like, just let Thor show up and do something besides, stand there and get his clothes blown off of him
Yeah.
by Zeus. And I thought that it would have been really cool if he would have somehow come into the mix in this movie, maybe even at the end or something. But
Mhm.
uh, it just the way that like Adam Warlock was a complete waste. Like
Yeah,
I
it's a
didn't even
complete mess.
understand what he was doing. And
He doesn't know.
if you saw the end credit scene, he's with them. They all got their uniforms on. There's some little kid now that they freed from the cage as part of the
Yeah,
team.
they kept one of the kids, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure I understand what her powers
She
are or would be, or
she could do something like I know when they went to fight the bug creatures or whatever that were
yep.
gonna kill the people on the planet, she was able to like power things came out of her hands. She kind of
Mm,
looked like a mini Miss Marvel to me.
okay.
And I'm not even really sure what Adam Warlock's powers were. He seemed like a Miss Marvel guy to me. He's got I've got beams and I'm gonna fly around with energy around me. Um, and then of course you got the dog. Uh,
Yeah,
the,
Cosmo was fine.
yeah,
Cosmo had a story arc actually. She and Kraglin had a story arc. I thought it was a little tedious. Like I thought it was, it got got to do that same joke multiple times, and we got to have this scene in the middle that almost like let's repeat it for anybody who went to the bathroom. But at least there was a story arc for those characters. And I can get that they're now part of this new team and they're there. That's fine. I mean, okay, that part. I mean, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. They're like these two. We're at what third or fourth tier characters in the grand scheme of things. So it's like it's all okay.
and that's true. But I would have actually been more interested to see Cosmo do a lot more stuff in the movie. I think it would
I
have
was
been
hoping there'd be more at the end. Like it would be
right,
more
right.
like all of them doing like the battle scene at the end. But again, it's like we ended up having like 15 minutes of like, you know,
Let
like
me ask you this: what
yeah.
did you think about the overall CGI and effects of the movie?
Most of it I thought was really good,
Mhm.
actually. I was actually shocked that it was actually as good. There's a scene where they hug, and I thought that was probably the worst CGI at the moment where I actually knew I was in the volume because the way the clouds were very static or something. I forget how this shot in particular, but they're hugging. It's like the very at the end, they come together, and it's clear that they're like the CGI room, and it's all that. But
Mhm.
actually, most of the CGI part was fine. I'm still hung up on the Zootopia planet. They're not going to win me over on the Zootopian planet. I hate that stuff. But I don't think most of that was CGI. I think they had people in like cheap
Yeah, that was
looking masks. Yeah.
prosthetics. You do.
Um,
I saw a thing where in the beginning where they're carrying Quill, Nebula's
yeah,
carrying
that
Quill.
mannequin thing they made.
Yeah, that thing was
Mhm.
creepy as hell because it looked just
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt. I was on a member stream with Matt. He's the only person that I've had some sort of interaction about the film, but he was doing a non-spoiler member stream, and I was on with them, and he'd actually pulled that video up and showed us whatever. And I said, my only response was, and I stand with it. Well, I guess they actually can do practical effects when they
Mhm.
want to,
Exactly, when they want to.
because it was
And,
quite impressive, actually.
Victoria Alonso's name was prominent in the credits. It was right there. So,
Mm.
so my thing about her is that at some point in her career, she had to have been competent at some point, like when she was younger or whatever.
Well, we got
Like,
through phase 1, 2, and
yeah,
3, and she had to be involved at least with some of it.
mhm.
So, I mean, obviously they've been failing up at Marvel. I don't know when she got sidetracked on doing her other independent film agenda stuff, which she clearly seems more interested in doing now, and they caught on to that.
So she either
Um,
delegated the hell out of this movie, or she actually this is what she focused on and let all the other ones go to hell. Because the CGI, I agree, was pretty darn good. Even the weird like pig machine gun creatures, and I don't know what those things were called. Oh, they were
oh,
called
that was fine
destroyers,
though. I
right?
thought all of that was actually, but again, this is a script that's been around for a while.
Mhm.
It's been in the works for a while, even before it got to now. So some of this could have easily been rendered and at least been in the process compared to, I think it was Doctor Strange, right? There wasn't really an ending, or they kind of rewrote it 2/3 of the way through.
Mhm.
Ant Man the same. Ant Man looks terrible. Ant Man looked horrible. Just an absolute debacle in that movie.
The,
Um, yeah,
yeah, with the big weird dildo sentient ships.
I just thought the whole thing. I just thought
It
all of
was
Ant Man. I was in the
eh,
freaking volume. There's a scene when they first arrive, and Cassie says something like, "Where are we?" And I'm like, "You're in the
in the
volume."
volume. Yeah,
And I can tell. And you never left the volume again until the very end where he's walking down the street again. And I'm like, okay. So
I think what the volume has its place for certain like indoor shots and things like that, like maybe on a starship or something. Um, but they overused it. They were like,
oh
ah,
yeah.
this is the new thing and it's cool and we spent all this money, so we got to use it now. You see that a lot in the military. You got this new cool thing, so you got to use it. You got to use it, even if it's not the most effective thing in the world. Um, and
And there's a lot of Hollywood creators though that love that control. Like they
right,
want to do soundstage work because they want control of the environment. They don't want to film on location for that
right, where it's
reason.
going to
So
rain or and birds are flying around and stuff.
sound,
Yeah.
extras, food people, just
Mhm.
no, with the volume, they probably have like this control freak thing that's in there as well. So I don't know. We'll see. Of all of the issues, that was probably like one of the things that is going to do well. So anyway, so Steven says he's got to going over to Cannoli. I thought Cannoli was later. Okay, okay. I thought Cannoli was significantly later. If Cannoli's not too late, I'll pop by. I'd love to join because I'm not normally in town on a Monday, so that might be an option. Um,
Yeah.
but overall, where do you kind of land this in the grand scheme of
So
like the films that we've had?
so here's how I've started rating films, especially with the way things been going. Do I want to see it again ever
Okay,
in my life?
sure.
And if so, like, do I need, if I see it a year from now, or do I want to run right out and see it again? This movie was good enough to where if it came on TV, like it was on cable or something, I might take time to watch it. Because I have
Yep.
a few movies that I will always stop and watch no matter what. Big Trouble in Little China, The Last Dragon, Dune, the 1984 Dune. I know a lot of people don't like it. I kind of care for it. I think it's kind of cool. I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll actually watch it from
Mhm,
wherever
mhm.
it's going.
Sure.
This one, I laughed at certain things. Although my sense of humor is a little more slapstick and silly, I think, than maybe some other people's. But um, So there were times when I did laugh. Uh, so overall, I would see this movie again, but I don't need to see it again soon. Maybe in a
Yeah,
year
I'm
or
with. I
something.
think I'm with you. Where um, I had realized as I was even now that I do the Pops channel, I realized I had not watched Ant-Man 2 again.
Mhm.
Hadn't remember seeing the last time I saw an Ant-Man movie, the first one even.
The f-
So I don't think this third one I would ever watch again. I think Thor: Love and Thunder was so offensive to me. I don't think I would ever sit through that one again, other than to mock it or whatever.
right, right,
Um, and I felt kind of so. The problem with Doctor Strange was it muddles things up so much, and it appears as though they'll do another one that I'll probably watch it again to try to make sure I can piece together enough of it to
right,
criticize the next
right.
film.
Well, it was a
Um,
terrible movie,
oh, it's
but
a
the thing
mess.
that pissed me off the most was how uh they punked like Captain Britain, uh the what is it, s- um the guy, the magic guy. He's a supreme sorcerer. He just falls in like a pit trench and can't get out.
Oh, right.
Like,
Yeah. Doctor
yeah, he just
Strange
yeah,
is
he just goes in
Steven,
there.
Steve,
Yeah.
that whole, the Illuminati stuff.
Yeah, that
Oh,
part, where they
that
spaghetti,
hocked me off.
yeah,
Yeah. That
and then
hocked
the
me
other
off.
guy's
You
like,
know,
"Oh, you don't have a
yeah.
mouth,"
Black
and I was like,
Bolt,
yeah,
Black
in a
Bolt in
statue,
2 seconds. And
yeah,
yeah.
kills, and I was like, what are they doing? This
Yeah.
doesn't
They
make any
don't.
sense.
Yeah, I would put this at least in the like I said, this is more like maybe than a 5.5. It gets above a 5 because it's like there's a little bit of that half that makes it like, it'd be all right. I'd sit through it again. But and it would be more likely than Doctor Strange would be more like out of necessity to try to
Mhm,
decode all the
mhm.
mess that they left behind. This one, it's not that messy. It's just it is what it is. It's fine. I got to be honest. I kind of talked Mrs. Pops out of it because she was kind of like interested in seeing it.
Mhm.
The biggest thing is it is like 2.5 hours long. And it's like,
Right, right.
golly. She's like, she had this look on her face like 3 hours. Like, really? We got to be in this freaking theater for 3 hours. You had trailers, driving there or whatever. And you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah,
It
that's a
was,
rough one.
I mean, it had some emotional moments in the whole part where they're being experimented on, and they had the
Oh,
weird,
Rocket's backstory, Rocket's
yeah,
story
yeah,
is
yeah,
was pretty good
and
actually.
the
I like it a lot.
creepy rabbit thing named Floor. That thing creeped
That
me
was
out.
stuff
But
strange.
just how that whole thing played out, and you know his relationship with everybody else, and then you realize then that, I thought that part was, I'm going to use the word brilliant here, but how they were able to connect in this movie back through the other two, his story, and it made sense.
Mhm.
That's kind of hard to do if you didn't plan it out, which I'm pretty sure they didn't. Um, just
No, I
like,
don't think I would be shocked if they had the High Evolutionary in mind when they did that first movie.
but
I'd be
right.
shocked.
So,
Yeah.
but how Rocket's story makes sense
Mhm.
going backwards from this one through to the first one. You
Right.
can connect the dots and you're like, okay, I get it now. And you see why he is how he is
Yeah.
because of what happened to
Yeah.
him in this third movie, is why
Yeah.
he's the way he is in the first one and the second one. And but I mean, I don't know if you'll ever, out of the three, beat the Yandu moment. Um
No, I don't think. I mean, I think that
yeah.
there's enough. Look, there are some feels moments in this and stuff. But there's also like enough that distracts me in between them where I'm not that. And I think they were going for certain feels, like with the
Mhm.
Gamora stuff. And I'm like, I'm not. You lost me. You had your chance to really get me on a hook, and you didn't go for it.
Right.
Um, Things like that, the Drax stuff, the Mantis stuff, all of that. I'm just like, all right, that's fine. Yeah, only the Rocket stuff I thought really hit the nail on the head. Um, I just touched on it briefly. I don't know if you were here or not. What was the deal with Groot having his head blown off and rocking around like a spider, and then the next later on he's just totally regenerated, even though we spent all of Guardians 2
With him in a planning pot, yeah, as a
I'm
baby.
like, he's like a mini Groot, and I'm
Right.
like, can he regenerate or not? Or and then at the end,
Well,
he's like a ginormous version. So again, I know that's nitpicky, but I get distracted by those things because I feel like you don't really have rules You just want to make it up as you go, and that's part of the problem with all of this is you don't really have a plan.
Well,
in that
that's
kind of-
modern Disney
Yeah.
writing.
Well,
In
yeah,
a
right.
nutshell, is just whatever's expedient for this episode, and they don't even worry about what happened the episode before. So they'll set a rule, especially in Star Wars, for an episode previous, that this is the thing: jetpacks run out of fuel. You cannot catch the turkey dragon that stole the kid because the jetpacks. And then
I
at the
know.
end, you got a guy going literally suborbital
Out of the
with one.
atmosphere.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, this
Makes
doesn't make
no
any
sense.
sense. What are the rules? Would the other guy have the bad model?
Yeah.
He had the Model
It's
T one or
stupid.
something. But yeah, so I feel I think that a lot of these writers are just like, well, how do we do this? I don't know. What if they just did this? And they're like, okay, that sounds cool. Instead of going, well, there's nobody in the room to go, wait a second, time out. You can't do that
Yeah.
because you just set up 4 movies ago that would be lore breaking,
Correct.
and
And that's when my brain has disconnected
yeah,
because like that was I didn't last more than a few minutes in Black Widow where I was just like, okay, she's a human.
all you had to do
You
was
can't you can't and there's just like so many of these things are like that.
put your
So many.
average YouTuber on speed
Oh,
dial and
yeah.
just, and pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, Mahler,
Mm,
we're thinking this. What do you think?" And he'd be like, "God's no,
yeah.
don't
Yeah, I
do
can't
that."
imagine that EFAP already. That's so crazy
Yeah,
that they EFAPs already. It's funny. I
yeah.
can't wait to listen to that.
They did it on Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
Okay.
Sunday, but it was like 9 hours long.
Wow.
So
Chris, this is definitely not. They took it as the high evolutionary had doing animal experimentation to create perfect organisms and had nothing to do with the comics that I have read. I'm not going to pretend though they haven't snuck in a modern one behind me though to try to make it match. But as far as I know, the answer would be no, and definitely not to the story that you're referencing. But I will say this because the actor's performance was so good, and because the elements of the story with those parts, the animal cruelty and the animals and all of that was done so well, it all worked. And that was definitely by far the through line through the whole movie that worked. And I think that's why a lot of people feel so good about the movies because that as a backbone was pretty strong. And I think that it's the pieces all around it with all these other characters, and they kind of don't always know what to do with them. It kind of gets dark, but then we crack jokes, and this character doesn't really change. And so there's pieces of things that do work, and there's other pieces of things that don't. Again, I maybe if I hear more reviews and I can have more of a compare and contrast from what people are saying, what's in my head, I can articulate things a little better. Because I didn't really watch anybody's stuff yet, love or hate. I assume there's both. I've seen thumbnails that say both, like you were saying, SOD, and like other people were saying in chat, like there's stuff like that. So.
yeah,
Um,
and there's a lot of moments in the one thing I will say is they didn't diminish any of the characters to prop up some of the other ones. At least that I
No,
felt
no,
like.
no. I thought everybody was Drax a little bit. I feel like but it's the same thing as always. I'm not saying it's worse in this movie. It's like I'm a little tired of
Mhm.
the butt of your joke thing, and
Right.
because the payoff of what you're doing it for the other character doesn't give me any reward. Like I like if you want to keep jumping off of Drax as the butt of the joke, then you gotta take this other character and really move them to something that's interesting or new. And I don't feel like Mantis is that significantly different. I don't feel like Nebula benefited from Drax. I think Nebula just kind of grew sideways because it's an emotional thing, and I think that they should have tied it to Quill and made give us something to go forward with. And even if they don't wrap it up, they can just allude to things. Maybe they have she has
Right.
some feels now, those kinds of things, things like that. But again, all in all, I'm not. We're definitely not out of alignment with our thoughts. I think we've had a decent discussion. I have a hard out, so I'm trying to make sure I kind of
Oh
try
yeah,
to
yeah,
miss
yeah.
anything. Yeah. Nas is talking about more crazy stuff because that's what Nas does best. Thank
Cannibal
you, sir.
Holocaust. No, yeah. Do not look up anything about that movie on your channel at
No,
all.
I'm not.
It'll get nuked.
No, I'm
So
not interested in any of this kind of stuff. So Shieldwall, what's going on your channel, man? What are you interested? What are you actually watching? And more importantly, what are you watching that brings you some happiness and some joy, my friend?
so well, I stream on Thursdays with Roman.
Yep.
And I've been a guest on Comics and Cosmetics on Sunday a couple of times. I mean, if people invite me on, I'll show up.
Cool.
And if I'm always I like listening to people's opinions from different perspectives, like Lofty. I mean,
Mhm.
he's got a lot of bad takes, but sometimes you got to listen to those to like get a clear, you know what I mean? So you're not just drinking a Kool-Aid the whole time.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
and so I like that a lot. But for me, I've actually started really just watching other people's content a lot. Uh,
Okay.
and it started with like the pandemic. Before I hardly ever looked at YouTube at all. I mean, I'd watch it every once in a while for something interesting, like a game I
Right.
was about to play or something. But then I got into watching streams and FNT and all that. So, but I don't have a channel or anything. I'm thinking about maybe doing something, but I don't know what I would
Awesome.
do because there's so many. I'm not really a comic book guy. I'm not really I mean, I've got movies and stuff, but I haven't read an actual comic book where I like knew what was going on since the 80s.
Hmm.
Um, it's just once I joined the military, I was so busy, you
I
know.
got you, man. No, I
Yeah,
listen, there's no judgment. There's no judgment.
yeah.
So if you want to do a channel, let me know. I'll give you some pointers, some thoughts.
I watched a little bit of your one of your how to do a channel, and I got to go back through and look at all those. But
Yeah,
I've
I
got some.
the biggest thing I would say for somebody right now is I was reading something the other day, and then I kind of heard, which ironically is kind of how it works in my life. Someone I like really said something very similar. It's like and maybe it's because it's a newer thing that the algorithm picks up on is when you start a new channel, you can do an announcement video or something like I have a new channel,
Mhm.
but don't actually like make it a thing until you do like just go ahead and leave them in a draft or something like that. Do 4 or 5 videos. So when people go to your new channel, they spend a minute and look at 4 or 5 of your things.
Mhm. So
And then
have
you
like
kind
a couple of videos teed up already.
Correct. Just
Right.
go ahead and just have them in draft. Maybe you announce it like, this is my channel where people can subscribe or whatever. But more importantly, do it and actually have content there, 4 or 5 videos. And they don't have to be long, just something, because then at least you have that initial boost of people looking at some things
Mhm.
and the algorithm will recognize that when they go there, people spend time on it. And at least get you maybe, and again, people are theorizing because I don't think anybody has the Rubik's Cube of the algorithm figured out. But I
Mhm.
thought that actually does make sense with what we do know about some of the other data mining and things like that we do understand.
Right.
And the most important thing, though, is you got to find something that you enjoy doing and don't have ridiculous expectations. Have realistic
Mhm.
expectations for what you're doing. I've heard a YouTuber here recently, and I just clicked right out because I'm like, this person is a very niche YouTuber doing most of their content. Their channel is written to do all sorts of things, but they don't. They spend most of the time in a window that's very, very narrow
Mhm.
and that most normies are not going to relate to. So you're right. Content creators are probably supporting you. You may even have great numbers on a live stream if you have a great community of people supporting you like that. But you're not going to get into any of that like overflow stuff. I call it
Mhm.
like that's the interstate of the highway. You're standing there holding up a sign. I did a review on this. Every now and again, you get a normie. A normie will come off and spend some time. Maybe they like you, maybe they don't. Maybe they subscribe, maybe you don't. And that's this gradual growth thing of finding new people that are not connected to the creator circle that we're in. But like I said, the most important thing is to have fun. So
Right. And I want that's just it. What's it going to be about? And it needs to be something I'm knowledgeable. And I spent 26 years in the military, so I can talk to some stuff about that,
yeah,
But I mean, is that something that somebody would be
I'm
interested in?
the
And I've
architect.
traveled a lot and all that
I
kind of
would
stuff.
never be the architect. Keep your eye off the red woman. She's the distraction point. So
What are you,
uh,
what are you talking about?
in the Matrix,
Oh,
he made a Matrix reference.
ah,
So in the Matrix, are you looking at me or are you looking at the woman in the red dress?
oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
woman in the red dress is the distraction. We
Mhm.
all have women that are in the red dress. So this is about there's a great metaphor I heard about that with your distraction point. Like how hot does she have to get before you get distracted? Are you easily distracted? Is a TV show on it's just distraction? This is so it's all about staying focused. And someone made a red dress reference and made me think
Ah,
of that.
right.
So
Got it. Got it.
uh I was gonna say, Star Wars Day. So if you're available for Star Wars Day, I'll probably stream on and off throughout that day. Feel free to
That's the
let me know.
25th.
5th. Yeah, Star Wars Day. So all sorts of
Okay.
different content.
Should be around.
Probably in the afternoon Eastern time for sure. We'll probably have a lot more time with an open door. And then probably after Return of the Jedi, I'll probably do a little more of an open door, kind of go from there, let people talk about whatever.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
see. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm retired, but my schedule's a little weird because I do
Oh,
stuff,
we understand.
some
I
stuff.
got you.
Um,
Yeah.
but Yeah, I mean, how old are you? I think I'm the same age as you.
I am 52.
Okay, I'm 53.
Well, I'm
So
almost 53 in
yeah,
July.
and
Yeah.
but I think my military retirement's a little different than working to 65 or whatever it is.
Yep.
But yeah. So anyway, thank you for having me on. This has
No,
been
it's been
great.
awesome, man.
And let me
Let's
just kind
we'll
of
run a
ramble.
credit and we can chat for a minute after we're done. Folks, thanks so much for hanging out with me and going through my therapeutic conversation about Guardians. It's I thought it was a little too long. I think that it's not horrible. I think there's some through points that are good, emotional, that kind of thing. And I don't know. You guys can tell me what you guys think in the comments, and let me know where you think I'm off base or not. I'm kind of like, if I have to grade it, I'm probably going to look at a 5.5, maybe a 5 to 5.5 is kind of where I'm at on it. Wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again, but doesn't necessarily have a total aversion to it that I do like some of the other stuff, and definitely is among the better things that have been done over the last couple of years. Thanks, Shieldwall, for coming in and hanging out with me, bro.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
And make sure everybody leaves on a nice high note, happiness. Here's some Bob Ross, make you happy.
All I do is chill.